social rest can be really valuable. This gives us a chance to recharge. And a big piece of this is actually maintaining our boundaries. Even for those who are extroverts, can help us maintain our emotional boundaries. So this can help us avoid burnout. It can help us actually stay connected to others. Welcome to Salad with a Side of Fries. I'm your host, Jenn Trepeck, talking wellness and weight loss for real life. We're here to clear up the myths, misinformation, bad science, and marketing to teach you how to eat and how to cheat. Are you ready? I'm having salad with a side of fries. Hi, friend. Welcome back to Salad with a Side of Fries. I'm your health coach and host, Jenn Trepeck, always here with you every week for wellness without the weirdness. Today, I have a new voice for you. She's one of our Resolution Revolution participants. Remember that from the beginning of this year? She's also a fellow Salad with a Side of Fries listener. Bonnie, welcome.
Thanks, Jen. It's great to be here today.
Yeah. And not to put you on the spot, right? In the interest of full disclosure, right? I shared with everybody that you were one of our Resolution Revolutioners. Anything you want to share about your experience with Resolution Revolution and what you were able to accomplish in just a few months?
Well, I think the biggest thing I got out of the whole resolution was the fact that I no longer need to diet and that I can have some of the foods I want rather than always denying myself those foods. So now it's more a lifestyle than prior to going through the program.
Yeah, for sure. And even in the beginning, you noticed a difference in your blood work.
Yes.
Which I think is also a piece of like when we feel like nothing works and everyone in our family has these things, you know?
Yes. So our family, high cholesterol runs in the family. Unfortunately, through my blood sugar and everything going down, it's changed my results of my cholesterol and it's gone down. So I'm very excited.
Yeah. And I feel like I can say this. I'm not divulging anything, but you've had some stress, right? Particularly work stress.
Yes.
And I'm hearing this from a number of clients and from colleagues. And it feels like everybody is like on the verge of burnout.
Yeah.
And it's summer, so it feels like it's time for a break and everybody seems desperate for a break. And early July, I want to say it was like July, like the first week of July, I led a webinar about beating burnout. And what we're going to talk about today was just a little piece of what I talked about in that webinar. So we're going to talk about 7 types of rest.
Great.
Maybe this is a spoiler. It does not include food coma, passed out drunk, or naps during a movie. Because somebody asked me that when I said 7 types of rest.
Yeah, this sounds great.
I mean, I do get those too, but that's not what we're talking about. So really quick, before we dig too deep too soon, let's tell our members what they're getting this week. So members, your recipe this week is for arugula chicken and melon salad with sumac dressing. So I don't know if you feel like this. I feel like salads at restaurants taste so much better than the ones I make at home.
Oh, definitely.
Right? Not anymore, because this recipe is like a restaurant salad in your own kitchen. It's so delicious. And you could certainly change up the kind of melon that you use too, depending on what you have. But the dressing and the whole combination of things here is beyond. So if you want this recipe, be sure you're a member. Go to glow.fm/salad with a side of fries for just $10 a month. You get weekly recipes, a monthly article or tool, extra discounts from me and our partners, plus access to live Q&A sessions with me. It's a total deal. I say it all the time. It's a steal because when you take advantage of the full offerings, you're going to save far more than that $10 cost. It's seriously a no-brainer way to show yourself that your health is a priority. Plus, being a member supports this podcast and this community so we can continue to do this with you every week. So remember, you're going to go to glow.fm/salad with a side of fries, or just forget the whole thing, right? You don't have to remember whole URL. Click the link in the episode notes. Once you're there, you click the little I agree and then support now. Enter your email and payment info, click subscribe, and you're all set. You'll get this week's recipe for the arugula chicken melon salad with sumac dressing. Okay, Bonnie, 7 types of rest. I know I mentioned a minute ago, it doesn't include food coma and falling asleep on the couch while watching TV, right? And actually, it got me thinking, like we did a nutrition nugget called NSDR, which stands for non-sleep deep rest.
Mm-hmm.
That's not even one of them.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I know.
I'm anxious to hear what they are.
Right. So I suppose it's an example of one of them. So I'll give you the full list of the 7, and then we'll go through each one. Okay. So we have physical rest, mental rest, social rest, spiritual rest, sensory rest, emotional rest, and creative rest.
Okay. Sounds interesting.
I know. It's funny because some of these, like, okay, sensory rest, I know I need that hardcore, right?
Yeah.
But then there's some of these that I think probably for most of us, we've never really thought about before or never really thought to separate them before. And so this whole thing kind of reminds me of episodes. Recently, we just had one called Make It Last. And we've talked about how like we don't have the vocabulary for emotions.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of feel like this is the same thing where like we have rest and sleep. We've never thought to like break that down, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Like, what is it? The Eskimos who have like all these different words for snow
Yeah.
because snow is so important. Like, okay, here we go. This is probably one of the best things we could do, right? Is to sort of expand and create some nuance in rest. Because we did the episode, sleep is the ultimate biohack, right? Like,
right.
Well, this is now a next level. So, this is like, let's kind of get specific about what we need, right? So maybe thinking about sleep, maybe we start with that, right? So that's number 1, physical rest. So yes, sleep, right? And physically resting our body, our muscles, giving time for repair and recovery. And this truly does help avoid like injuries and fatigue. But even this could sort of be broken down further. So there's like passive, which is like sleeping at night, or naps, as we've talked about. But there's also active physical rest, which includes things like stretching, getting a massage, even thinking about your work setup. And I'm thinking about that as I'm like sitting here at my little recording setup. Right. But like an ergonomic chair or making sure that things are the right place to support your body physically, while you're sitting there can also be a piece of this physical rest.
Right.
I don't know about you. I feel like lately I've been prioritizing sleep and doing better about it, but I feel like I could be doing more of these things.
Right. Oh, definitely. I mean, I used to go to like yoga and I guess that would be active. But I have not been doing that lately, but that does help the stress and everything.
It actually gives new meaning or new purpose to the massage, the stretching, the little things that I think we like maybe overlook.
Right. Yeah. Usually we don't think they're, I guess, that important, but they actually are.
Yeah. All right. Let's go to the second one, which is mental rest. So this gives our brains some time to recharge, to process information. The outcome of mental rest or giving ourselves mental rest is that we are able to be focused and productive and alert. So one of the things we want to consider with mental rest are things that we could do that relieve overthinking or overtaxing our thinking. So having a grocery list, right? Honestly, and everybody's going to hate me for saying this, but like writing down your food and water and all the things instead of doing it in your head.
Right.
Out of our heads, onto paper. I know it's not so easy.
No, yeah, I never like writing everything down. But...
Right. I know. And with, your to-do list. So this is an interesting one because a lot of times we've talked about how like a to-do list, similar to writing down our food, it gets it out of our head and onto paper.
Right.
I'm going to encourage everybody to go back to our episode with Megan Sumrall, which was titled like, There's Not Enough Time in the Day. Because she talked about a different system for to-dos and things that come up rather than making that list of things. Because a lot of times for a lot of people, every time we go back to that list, it reignites the overwhelm as we read through it.
Right.
It creates the decision fatigue of even deciding what task we're going to tackle next, instead of that mental effort and energy going to actually addressing the task. So one of those things that she talked about is putting things in your calendar. So instead of putting things on a to-do list, put it in your calendar at a time, a specific day and specific time with a chunk of time assigned to it to complete that task.
Which is a great idea.
I know.
Yeah, with work, I have a whole list like that, and it's not in a calendar, so I might try that.
Yeah. So on that webinar I did in July, somebody on that webinar said one of her employees is really good about that. That like if she gets in, so the person on the webinar said, I'll email her asking about something. And this employee responds with like, I'm working on that Thursday at 2.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah.
And that really kind of shuts down ongoing dialogue about this one task. It also lets them know that it's going to happen and when they can expect, a response or more information about it or whatever. Like it's an interesting approach so that we're not expending more of our mental energy, even with that to-do list or when somebody asks about something. I'm heading out of town shortly, so also a packing checklist.
Oh, right.
Makes it a lot easier.
Yeah.
Another piece of mental rest is, we've talked about it a million times, but like mindfulness, deep breathing, dare I say meditation, right? Sometimes that's like a swear word, right?
Yeah, meditation's hard.
Right. But I will say, and I've shared this with you guys before, like it's gotten so much easier for me by working with a meditation coach and using guided meditation and shifting my understanding of what meditation actually is, right? So we did an episode, Meditation for Stress, where we talked a lot about what it actually is versus what we think it is. And then there's also, I did an episode with my meditation coach way back in the beginning of the show. I want to say it was like late 2019. We did this episode and it was called Slow Down. Yeah, right. Because that was me, right? Yeah. So I encourage you, go back and listen to those. But even if you could just find a few minutes of quiet time, a couple deep breaths, it's that mental rest. How often does that happen for you, Bonnie?
Well, I find I go on and off where at night before I go to bed, I'll listen to Calm has a couple of ones where, before you go to bed, it tells you, take a deep breath. And when I listen to that, it actually really helps. And then I'll listen to a story that they have. And that actually really helps, like just kind of relax me because I am very much a type A personality. So,
yeah. Interesting too, as you're saying that, right? We have this like nighttime ritual. It might be interesting to explore too, sort of a ritual for yourself at the end of your workday.
Oh, yeah.
How do you close those things down? How do we sort of separate like the mental space of work and then leaving that and going into our own lives, hopefully, for some time in the evening? It's another approach to like that mental rest.
Yeah. And I do have a hard time transitioning from work to, my personal life because I think in the back of my head, oh my gosh, what do I still have left to get done? And there's always a lot still to get done. So that is a good idea.
Always. There are always things to get done. Absolutely. Okay. Third type of rest, social rest. So this is taking a break from social interactions and like everyday social interactions. Now, for introverts, socializing can be very exhausting and draining. But even for people who wouldn't identify as introverts, social rest can be really valuable. This gives us a chance to recharge. And a big piece of this is actually maintaining our boundaries. I want to say that again, right?
Yeah, that's always a hard
thing. Right? Social rest, even for those who are extroverts, can help us maintain our emotional boundaries. So this can help us avoid burnout. It can help us actually stay connected to others.
Right.
So social rest might look like spending time alone, opting out of a social situation. It might be just spending time with people who are super close, right? Where it's not on.
Right.
Or people where you have to think about what you're going to talk about, right? This could also be, and I'm saying this out loud because it is one of the things that I have a very hard time with, but it is going on a solo hike or solo lunch without a book.
Or a phone.
I know. Right, exactly. Or a phone. Like doing things by yourself, especially in nature, even like a walk, doesn't have to be a full-blown hike, but something by yourself without input, right? But social rest.
Okay.
Maybe it's even like, I'm thinking about skincare, right? Like, I'm seeing them all over social media these days, but like the skincare masks, right?
Yeah.
Maybe we use that time to just put on a mask and make everybody leave us alone for a few minutes,
Right.
And we talked about this in our episode Beyond Caffeine, Natural Ways to Improve Energy. We talked about like energy givers and energy zappers. Oh, Melissa was on that episode. Bonnie, you know Melissa.
Oh, yeah.
So she said her family calls it peopling, right? Like they're done peopling. But consider those energy zappers in your life. Social rest. Limit the interactions with the energy zappers.
Definitely, yeah. Definitely.
Spend more time with the energy givers.
Yes.
Even that qualifies as social rest, I think. Okay, so that brings us to number 4, spiritual rest.
Oh, okay.
I know this one's interesting. And part of it is because the practice of it is very similar to other things that we've already talked about. But spiritual rest even means taking a break from the spiritual demands that we face every day. This is about giving ourselves time to connect with ourselves. It's that, like some would call it, right? Like that inner voice, that inner conversation, the meaning that we find in our lives.
Right. Okay.
So meditating, praying, engaging in some sort of spiritual practice, yoga could fall into this category. I put meditation in here, but it also might just be music. If music moves you, it's all about how do we tap into that gut instinct, tap into the things that we know and learning to trust ourselves in what we know.
So kind of listening to yourself.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Like creating the space to hear it, right? And then listen to it, learning to listen to it and connecting with that. Like, I think that's why I like music for this, because it can sort of take us out of our thinking, right? Like, those songs that like touch you in some way, that like completely envelop you in whatever it is. One of my favorite, other than music, one of my favorite things to do here is volunteering, doing something purpose-driven. It helps us get out of our stuff.
Right.
Our everyday stuff that we get caught up in. A little perspective, maybe.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I mean, the yoga, that kind of does that for me. Yeah, lets me, and it stops the voice in my head that's going nonstop. So I can not be focused on everything else.
Exactly. It's like, what are the things that we could do that help us feel grounded and fulfilled? And yeah, I keep coming back to purpose,
Right, which is so important.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of sites like New York has, I think it's still around. There's an organization called New York Cares. And it's like they give you all these volunteer opportunities around that you can just sign up for and show up. But there are even meetups, if you're familiar with meetup.com, where you could go volunteer or look at organizations near you. Maybe it's a soup kitchen or a food pantry maybe it's your church or your synagogue or your mosque or wherever, you know what I mean? Like, where can you get out into the community or give of yourself?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I think there's a lot of definitely opportunities regardless of where you live.
And I think that's something that we all overlook as we get caught up in our own day-to-day and the things that are going on. And especially as we put all this in the context of burnout, like, what if we took a day and all went to go volunteer and do something? One of my friends' companies, actually, they get, how you have like certain number of vacation days and sick days and whatever. They have a volunteer day.
Yeah, we used to have
as
that.
part of their package.
Yep. I think that's great. Yeah, all companies should definitely offer that for sure.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so we did 4. We did physical, mental, social, and spiritual. That means we have 3 left. Let's pause to highlight our partner for this episode. Good?
Yep, good.
Big thanks to Snap Cleaning Products for supporting Salad with a Side of Fries. Make household and industrial cleaning a snap with their eco-friendly, economical, multi-purpose Snap products. Snap's concentrated, multi-purpose formulas perform light to industrial strength jobs all in one bottle. Snap products give you the cleaning power of a variety of cleaners, saving you time, money, and valuable storage space. And Snap products are developed with the environment in mind, using plant-based ingredients that are biodegradable, phosphate-free, non-toxic, and bottled in recyclable containers. So we're talking all about rest today. I suppose some people find it enjoyable to do dishes.
No.
Like some people say it's like their time. I am in the camp of how can I make this take as little time as possible?
Yes, I do not like dishes at all.
Same. So that's why I like Snap, because the Snap dishwashing liquid is like magic. The dishes just like wipe clean. It makes doing dishes so easy. It's just $11.95 for 32 ounces. Wild. The triple enzyme laundry detergent actually breaks down stains to remove them. Again, making laundry easier. That one is just $13.95 for 40 ounces and does up to 80 loads of laundry. It truly is free of chemicals and additives. It doesn't even have a scent. And maybe you want to upgrade all of your household cleaning products in one fell swoop. You can do that with the Snap Pack for just $89.95. And all these prices, by the way, are before your discount. Because you're a Salad with a Side of Fries listener, you get 10% off and free shipping. So simply text the word CLEAN, CLEAN, to 844-947-4846. You'll receive the link and coupon code right to your phone. Again, simply text the word CLEAN, CLEAN, to 844-947-4846 to try Snap, in particular the triple enzyme laundry detergent, or get the Snap Pack for 10% off plus free shipping. This is a toll-free number. Standard text and data rates may apply. Okay, type of rest number 5. And I'm going to preface this by saying this is a big one for me. We are all a work in progress.
Yeah.
This is sensory rest. Sensory rest is taking a break from the constant input. I'm struggling with words because I am the worst with this. I am working on it, but I am the worst. I live alone. 99% of the time, I am watching TV, listening to a podcast. Something else is happening while I am doing anything in my home.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So this is when we do want to turn off the music. By the way, this is turn off the TV, turn off the music, turn off the podcast, right? This is deep breathing, quiet, close our eyes. Think about all your senses.
Mm-hmm.
How can we rest all of our senses at one time?
Without going to sleep, I'm guessing.
Right. It could be even just a couple minutes, right, before we go to sleep if we wanted to. But even learning to add it into our day at other times can help us with that feeling like we're on the edge of burnout.
Yeah, I'm not good with this one. Yeah.
Right? I know.
It's a hard one.
Totally. And frankly, like we just live in a world of overstimulation, right? And that overstimulation creates a lot of the exhaustion. Our brain is always going because there is constant input. Think about how when you're trying to remember something, you might close your eyes.
Right. Yeah.
right? Because we're trying to minimize the sensory input to concentrate on the thing. So if we can find some time to turn off all of the sensory input, we can avoid the sensory overload. We can work to minimize the stress, at the very least, reduce some of the stress.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely need to do that. Yeah.
Yeah. So think about, noise, light, multiple stimuli at the same time.
Yeah.
How can we, right? So again, when you take a shower or take a bath, do you listen to music or listen to something? Like I listen to a podcast.
No, I don't. But sometimes I will.
Good for you.
If I'm taking a bath, I will read my Kindle sometimes. So I still am getting the stimulus.
Yeah. So that's the thing is like, could we actually just take a shower or sit in a bath and just be in a bath?
Yeah, I feel like the shower, I do that. Like I don't have anything in the shower. Like I don't have any music or anything. So I feel like I definitely can in the shower, and I have to work on the bath because it's like, what do you sit there? What goes through your head though? We're so used to something going on.
Exactly. So other ways that we can do sensory rest. Take a break from social media.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Right? Now, some people have talked about like a social media detox before. We talked about it a little bit with our episode Perception versus Reality about what happens with social media. Maybe we need to take a break. By the way, you can just do nothing with your account and delete the app from your phone.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's not there. And then when you download the app again, you just log in and all your stuff is still there the way it was before. So maybe that's a way to help. Maybe you turn off notifications on your phone or your watch, or adjust what things, like what apps give you notifications. Maybe you adjust what's a visual alert versus a sound or a vibrating alert. Maybe at work, you limit the video meetings and it's just a day of phone calls or solitary work or things like that, right? Like how can we sort of manage all the sensory input?
Right.
And then going to what you were talking about before with like what you do before bed.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about this a little bit in our Ultimate Biohack episode, but like starting to turn the lights down, using like we talked about the pink salt night light. That also helps with some of the relaxing ambiance and minimizing some of that sensory input compared to like bright lights,
Or the phone.
Right. Or the phone or the TV. Yeah. I can't remember what I was listening to, but they talked about this idea of a nothing box.
Okay.
And spending time in your nothing box. And I was like, that is genius. Right? So your bath, as you were saying, right? What do you think about? It's spending time in our nothing box.
Yeah, I'm going to try it. Definitely.
Right? So even when things pop to mind, of course they will. Thank you. I'll think about that later. I'm spending time in my nothing box. So I had heard about this right before I went to Atlanta for a weekend to see friends. And my friend's kid was like hanging out and she was like, I'm bored, And she was like, well, what am I going to do? Or whatever, and her mom was saying like, it's not iPad time, right? Like come up with something else to do. And she was like, I'm so bored. And I was like, it's spending time in your nothing box. And she was like, huh?
What's that?
And I was like, your nothing box. But it's a great way to sort of put a word on this experience of having a little bit of sensory rest. Actually, all of this, right? All of this kind of rest is like time in the nothing box. Okay, so the sensory thing and even the spiritual thing connects to number 6, which is emotional rest. Emotional rest is kind of lifting the weight off our shoulders of the emotional demands that we face. So this might be spending time alone. It might be spending time with, a trusted friend or somebody that you do talk about anything with. Again, where you're not like on. We talked about doing that solo walk or solo hike, spending time in nature. emotional rest. Avoiding stressful situations, emotional rest. This also allows us to process our feelings. Processing our feelings is again helpful for maintaining emotional boundaries, emotional balance, and avoiding burnout. And I think this one's especially hard because I think guilt shows up in this one maybe more than others. Especially for people with kids, especially for people who a lot of people need them in their time. Business owners, right? The people like CEOs, heads of organizations, where a lot of people need their time. This is a big one.
Yeah, they might feel like it's a waste. You're like, oh, wait, is that, I have so many things to do. Is it, emotional time? Is that, do I really have time for that? Like, is it really that important? I think that's probably what a lot of people would think.
And I think it's also hard to know when we need it.
Yes.
So my old job, I worked in hedge funds, and it was one of those kinds of environments where you just had to have that hard exterior and let everything fly off of you. Because if you actually paused to like take any of it in, you would be like, this place is toxic. I gotta go. Right. But that doesn't serve you. But it doesn't serve you in that moment. So we don't do it. So I share that to say, let's all learn from this experience that I had, right? Where do you feel like you're not even feeling things? Like things can be crazy around you and you're sort of like blinders on, focused, moving forward. That's a great indication that we could use a little emotional rest.
Yes, definitely.
A moment of pause to actually recognize everything that's around us so that we can then be our true selves again. So you need emotional rest if you are often in places where you feel like you can't be yourself or show your full range of emotions. So my old job was that way. I feel like flight attendants are that way. People who work in customer service probably need this a lot.
Yeah, probably.
Right? So spend time with people that you can really, I hate to use this word, but it's the only one that's coming to my brain, but like where you can be authentic, right? I feel like it's sort of become very trite to say that, but where can we just really be ourselves and not have to like pretend that something doesn't bother us?
Right. Yeah. Just like your true friends. Yeah.
Or a therapist.
Right. Yeah.
Right? Let it out. We need people that we can have these conversations with, because otherwise, right, if we never give ourselves this emotional rest, it leads to that burnout. It leads to the frustration and the irritation and the exhaustion.
Yes.
That I think so many people are experiencing.
Mm-hmm.
All right, are we ready for number 7?
Yes, I'm excited with number 7. These have all been good.
Creative rest. Creative rest. So this is like, take a break from the things that you do all the time. Do something different. I think especially with work, we can feel like we have to constantly be producing.
Yes.
Right? Take a break. Do something creative if the work isn't. If the work is creative, like people would put me in a category of creators, right?
Mm-hmm.
Creative rest is still important, even for creators, right? What it means is a different kind of activity, a hobby.
Mm-hmm.
When we're doing this, our brain will start to explore new ideas. And for a lot of people, that rekindles inspiration and motivation. Like I'm actually doing a pottery class in a couple days. I am terrible at things like that.
Yeah.
But it's about doing something creative and different. This also might mean like even just appreciating what's around us, like the sunrise, or again, going for that walk in nature and recognizing like what a miracle it is that all of this stuff grows.
Mm-hmm.
The human body, I did blood work the other day to like check on things, whatever. And I walked out of there and I was like, what a miracle the human body is, right? And that from these 2 vials of blood, they're going to come back with all this information. Like, it can tell us all these things, right? Like, little moments of wonder and awe also qualify as this like creative rest.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Maybe you go to a museum or an art fair.
Yeah.
See a documentary.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say, I'm not really an artsy type person, but
me either.
I did do one of those like paint classes. I mean, the picture wasn't, anything I'm going to put on the wall, honestly, but it was relaxing.
But that's a great example. Find one of those like paint and wine things or plan one with your friends. I feel like now they even have one that's like in a box shipped to you, like do it at home with people activities. I mean, I am also not great at those things, but it's part of why I think I'm doing the pottery class too, right? It's pushing ourselves to do that kind of stuff that's creativity, that's using our hands or whatever in a different way than we typically do.
Right.
All right, we talked about a lot. In each one, we talked a little bit about how to get them in, but let's spend a second to actually like just focus on that, right? First piece is, what do you need? So to me, the easiest way to think about what you need is to think of it as restoration. If somebody said to you, right, what needs to be restored for you right now? I think it's an easier question to answer than saying, well, do I need spiritual rest? Do I need social rest? Right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I was trying to figure out how do you get all those different types of rest in, which then stresses you out because you're like, well, wait, I got to figure out how to get all these different types of rest in. So that kind of defeats the purpose.
Right. Yeah. I think everything is easy. It's just not simple.
Mm-hmm. Maybe you could just take one of them and start out with, one. Like I was thinking even just like you were talking about being in the nothing box. Yeah. I was thinking that would probably be a good one for me to start out with because I am always like looking on my phone while I'm watching TV, which doesn't really make much sense, but I don't know.
Oh, it's just I am right there with you.
Yeah. So that sounds like maybe I'll just start with one thing at a time.
Yeah, I've also been known to ask somebody if the show they're recommending is one that requires you to actually be watching the screen.
Yeah, because if you have to really watch it, you're definitely not going to be able to scroll through your phone.
Right, exactly. I'm like, these are important things when you give me a TV show recommendation. Even if what you do is schedule breaks in your day, like 10 minutes here and there, a couple times a day, blocked in your calendar. And then you say, and maybe what you do the first, week is you throw them in there and you put a different thing on each one. Mm-hmm. So maybe one is walk for 10 minutes without AirPods, just a quiet walk. Maybe another one is, change a Zoom meeting to a phone call. And so for that 10 minutes, you're looking at your calendar, you're finding a Zoom meeting, you're emailing that person to say, do you mind if we make this a phone call instead?
Okay, yeah.
Maybe it's, 10 minutes that night to spend time in the nothing box or to turn all the lights off and just start to use lamps instead of big overhead lights. Or even blocking one night in your calendar to say, this is my me night. This is where I'm not making social plans. I am not, doing a million other things for everybody else. I'm actually going to do the face mask. Mm-hmm. It requires us to be intentional, to schedule it like we would other things, and prioritize them as much as we prioritize the other things. And I think there's a lot of value in experimenting because that's why I like the idea of taking a week and just labeling each one, trying a bunch of things, and then seeing what actually helps you feel better, or taking 10 minutes and calling that friend where you don't have to put on airs, try all of these things and just see.
Yep. I'm definitely anxious to try some of these out. I definitely need them.
I know. I'm like, you're going to try the nothing box. I'm going to keep working on my nothing box. Well, like I said, I have this pottery class coming up. I'm also working on walks outside without AirPods or even like taking a shower without listening to something,
Yeah.
We've talked about a lot. We have 7 types of rest. Fitting all of those in, let me scroll back to the top of my notes and I'll give us like a once over of the 7 and we can have a final thought. So we have physical rest, mental rest, social, spiritual, sensory, emotional, and creative. Bonnie, final thought?
Yeah, I just think you gave us a lot of good information and I'm just ready to try them out. Try at least one out, the nothing box, and see how it goes.
Yeah. I think for me, like I heard about this whole thing a couple years ago and then forgot about it. And I suppose, right, it's like they say, like when the student is ready, the teacher appears. I love this. It is giving nuance to the exhaustion that so many of us feel.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it really just allows us to better serve ourselves. It allows us to, show up for ourselves and our families. And like, imagine if we taught this stuff to kids, right? Or if we could identify in our kids what they really need.
Yeah. Great.
Like if we could say, okay, what they really need is emotional rest versus, sensory rest. So my final thought is, I hope this helps.
Yes.
I think it helps me.
Definitely. Definitely. Big one.
Awesome. All right. Are you ready for our nutrition nugget segment?
Yes.
Okay. On Friday, we're talking about training like an Olympian. So the Summer Olympics are happening. And a couple of years ago, it was August of 2021, we did an episode called Olympic versus Everyday Athlete. And ultimately, we ended up focusing more on their nutrition. So this time, I want to focus more on their training. So that's going to be this week's bonus episode, Nutrition Nugget, on Friday. So be sure wherever you're listening, click the plus sign or the follow button so that the app will alert you when the Nutrition Nugget goes live on Friday morning. Well, as always, everybody, I'm your host, Jenn Trepeck. Connect with me on Instagram or all social media. I am at Jenn Trepeck, JENNTREPECK. Website is asaladwithasideoffries.com. Pick your platform, send a message. I love hearing from you. Your takeaways, your ideas, your questions. This is also the easiest way to learn more about working with me as your health coach. Bonnie, thank you again for being here and joining me.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. This was great.
Awesome. And of course, if you are not already, join our membership program by going to glow.fm/saladwithasideoffries. This shows your support for this podcast and this community, but most importantly, it supports your health. You'll get this week's recipe for the arugula chicken melon salad with sumac dressing. So until next week, remember, rest in all its forms supports our health. So consider what type of rest you're truly craving and indulge in it. Well, friends, that's it for today's episode of Salad with a Side of Fries. Congratulations for making yourself and your health a priority. Thanks so much for joining us. Be sure to click subscribe or follow on your favorite podcast platform. Share us with a friend, and we'll be back next week. Always remember, you deserve it, and you are worth it. Happy healthy.